Maybe we start out with that. Maybe we start out with Twitter player in Terra. This them putting Darius on here is a little bit troll. It's like at least a little bit troll. I think personally, in order to set people's expectations properly, there should have been a different set here. Like maybe over here by new cards, you have something that says like PvE change, right? Like where it very specifically you're setting the expectation that this is not a balance change that will affect PvP. This will only affect PvE. I think that would have been like probably a good thing, because as it is, this turning out to be like purely a path change is like, it's a little cringe. Just it's slightly tone deaf. It's setting people's expectations at the wrong level, which just sets people up for disappointment. Yes, this wasn't great. This wasn't great. This definitely was not great. Let's look. Our first new expansion arrives in May. Do we talk about other stuff? Let me look. PV content, new cards, May and beyond, February. So they don't have anything on April. So where did we get the idea that it was in April? Blah, blah, blah. I agree. Blah, blah, blah. April champion adjustments. We're excited for our new expansions. We haven't forgotten our existing roster. We're taking a look at some of champions who could use some attention to make their game plan smoother to execute and bring them up to a more competitive level. Okay, so I think if you read this, which is what we're looking at, right? If you read this, and you scroll up, and it says, highly requested reworks older champions. It feels like they're probably referring to the same thing. And I think a lot of people have different definitions of what the word rework means regarding a champion, right? It's a buff. They play a high health. Yeah, no, if they hand buff Gorlith, that's a buff. So like, I think that in my mind, what would constitute a rework would not be stat changes. Stat changes can never be a rework in my mind. That's just, you know, a normal buff or nerf, right? I think that a rework would have to change the text on a card and fundamentally change a mechanic on it. So for instance, I think that the Diana change is probably like a soft rework, right? It's like a light rework. I think that like the Garen change, once we go down to that, where he like buffs on play, that's probably like a slight rework. I think it's fine. This Karma thing, ooh, I don't know. This doesn't really feel like a rework. This Katarina one super doesn't feel like a rework. You know, it's just, I think that I would like for Riot, when they put out statements like this, where they specifically use the word rework, I would like them to define what they mean by rework. Once again, I don't think that these changes are bad. I just want them to set proper expectations so that people aren't incredibly disappointed when we come around to patch time and Darius only got a PvE change, right? Like, it's just, I just want them to set proper expectations. Yeah. Was tacked on because they gutted her with the rule change? I don't think that they gutted her. They gut her. They gutted her interaction with Ezreal. But like, other than that, it's not really like a gut, right? Easton should be a poster child of the rework. It's cat change. I'm not a fan of the cat change. Okay. So we established that Riot probably could have done a better job with expectations, which is setting proper expectations. But that's okay. Let's go and start going down the list. Interaction with Lux is dead now too. I know, was Karma Lux ever a deck? I mean, in the last like year and a half, I know that like 30 years ago in the PBE, there was like this Lux Karma deck that people really liked playing. But yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's go and start going through some of these changes. New cards. In addition to the rest of the card updates below, we've got another set of new cards for this patch to fill in some gaps for a few archetypes, namely Elites, Reputation, and Udyr. Work with us, we're still experimenting with this idea, which is cool. I like that we are continuing the idea from the last patch. Remember the last patch, they talked about how they were going to be willing to like throw in new cards that aren't necessarily part of like a big set. They're more just trying to fix like current issues that archetypes have. You know, the last set or the last expansion last month didn't have great cards. Desert Duel's like, okay. Rocket Barrage is terrible. And the Targon Stun's okay. So I like that they're continuing this though. You know, being willing to like release new cards like this. I like this. I like this. Let's go and check them out though. Might of the Vanguard. We're generally improving the elites package in this patch, and Might of the Vanguard acts in a flexible way to bring another fairly statted elite to the field, or make your other units or other elites more elite. So, to play, spend all of your mana, summon a Dauntless Vanguard, and grow its stats to that amount. If 9+ mana was spent, grant other allied elites +2/+2. Okay, so we can watch the video on it. It's kind of like Thermo, except, you know, instead of killing something, you're summoning a unit with like XX, where X is the amount of mana that you spend. If you spend a lot of mana, you buff your board, which is kind of cool. I think it's okay. I think it's all right. Because you could play this on like, you know, if you build up your board, you know, and then like on turn 6 you drop this, it's all right. You're playing super hard into Ruination, and like at worst, it's like an okay statted unit. You know, you could play it on turn 3 and get like a 6/6, and that's fine. Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's cool. I don't know how good it'll be. I think that this is the type of card that is really difficult to judge until you're actually like in game against it, right? You know, you've either played it or you've played against it, and you find out like, okay, how strong is having a 6/6 on turn 3 really? How strong is having a 7/7 on turn 4? The answer is probably like not ultra strong, but like I like the existence of this card, and I'm willing to try it out, see where it goes. You know, maybe it's too broken. We'll see. Another 3-cost summon. I think there's another 3-cost summon of the Dauntless Vanguard. Is there actually a minimum or no? Miss a 1-drop. You can play a 4/4 on turn 3. Stuff like there. Yeah, no, I mean, there's like reasonable things you can do with it. Like, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Succession? I mean, I know, but like, what? You could still cast this for 1 mana, right? Spend all your mana? Yeah, you can still cast this for 1 mana, so. Oh, it is 3. You're right. Wait, you're right. That's really weird. Huh. Okay, well, dope. Either way, I think it's cool. I think it's a cool card. For Glory, Reputation. I cost 3. It's a 6 mana slow speed. Summon 2 Trifarian Glory Seekers, which are the 5/1s with Challenger. Which, I don't know. It's... I mean, when it's procced with Reputation, it's really good. You know, summoning multiple things in one action's like usually a pretty cool effect. I don't know how strong this is. It's like, it's okay, I guess. If you play it on, you know, turn 3, it activates your Reputation really quickly. But realistically, I don't know. If you're playing it for full cost, this card doesn't seem great. Buff to Financier. There are some matchups where this will be good. Where this will be a good hit off of Financier. But of course, there will be some matchups where it's a terrible hit. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say. Helping you hit Reputation if you don't have it, which is really nice too. Yeah, having access to like multiple 5-attack units is never like that bad. But oh my god, if you play this card into a Static Shock, like bro, the game's fucking over. Like, you actually cry if you ever play this card into a Static Shock. Or even like a Vile Feast. Oh my god, there are so many matchups that are just so... that this card is just pure dog shit in. What are you doing? 6 cycle? We mean Pericles. We're going over the patch notes. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see on it. We'll see on it. I think it's... there are definitely some matchups where it's really good. Like into Demacia, this card's probably really good. But I don't know. Reputation or Ash into Kades, you lost anyway, so yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, I don't know, we'll see. It also makes like your, you know, your Freljord SI matchup that usually was pretty solid for you worse, so I don't know. Usually worse than Assembly Line. Yeah, it's definitely matchup dependent. We saw patch notes yesterday because the leaks. Yeah, but we're actually going over them today, right? For Glory is fine. Pings aren't meta. Yeah, it's fine. Copium. Caitlyn Ezreal's definitely not coming back. Copium. Inner Beast. 2 mana burst speed. Give an ally +1/+1 this round. Create a stance swap in hand. For Udyr. This card's pretty solid. It's like a Pale Cascade that's always hitting you stance swap, and you don't have to Nightfall it. I think this card's pretty okay. It's not like the most insane card in the world, but I think it's really solid. Yeah, I think it's really solid. And her beast is good. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's not like the best card in the world. I'm not like looking at it like, oh my god, this card's going to break the fucking meta. But I think it's super solid. What's up, Kavira? Hit me with it, buddy. How you doing? Freya now is Pale and Quicksand. You mean Pale and Troll Chant? Unless you're saying Troll Chant is Quicksand. Not Pale. Pale Cascade draws. Yeah, but it's a Pale that always draws you stance swap, right? Like, it's kind of the same card. Confidence display capture, not window capture? What do you mean? What's the worry, Kavira? Do you think that I'm gonna, like, drop something crazy? What's the worry? Anyone link the patch notes? If you go to playruneterra.com, it'll be right there. It's just on Riot's site. But yeah, no, I think it's pretty alright. Much worse than draw. Imagine if the 2/2 Freljord guy draws one. I think that they're different. I don't think that it's better or worse. I think it's fine. When will patch drop? Tomorrow. Tomorrow. So in like, I don't know, 18 hours or something. Oh, thanks, Metal, for dropping that. My man isn't going to keep the DeviantArt tab open while he streams. Yeah, no, that's on my other screen, guys. The DeviantArt tab is on my other screen. No, I think that this card's pretty solid. I don't think it's like breaking Udyr, but I think it's pretty good. Card updates. So let's go ahead and start talking about the actual balance changes. This is our champion adjustment patch. We made a range of changes to some underplayed champions to help smooth out their game plans, as well as some supporting cards for Elite's reputation Udyr. And yes, nerfs to Tree and Yordlin arms. Thank the Lord. Holy shit. If I ever play another game against Bandletree, it'll be too soon. Frankly, too soon. Fuck Bandletree. Fuck Bandletree. Probability of instantly leveling up Ashe on turn 5? A Spirit Fire? I mean, it probably happens in some matchups. So Ashe. From you frostbite 4+ enemies to you decrease 4+ enemies power to 0. So the big things here, this matters with Troll Chant. Troll Chant is now adding towards Ashe level up. And a lot of people have been talking about potentially putting her in Shurima. Because stuff like Exhaust exists. Quicksand is like really good right now. Spirit Fire is bad, but it lowers your opponent's attack. So, I mean, you know, it's a card. I think it's cute. I think it's a cute change. I don't know how good it's going to be. You know, I don't know if it's going to be like insane, but I think it's pretty solid. Desert Duel? Yeah, having access to Desert Duel is pretty cool. Ice Quake? I don't think you're going to Ice Quake very often with this. Yeah. No, I think it's a cool idea. I think any buff to Ashe is like pretty solid. We had talked a lot about Ashe previously, how like the two ways to approach fixing Ashe and fixing like, you know, Ashe Nox mid range was one, either giving them more value, because right now they just get shit on by value because there's so much value in the game, so much I don't know, power creep as far as like card generation and card value. That's something like Ashe LeBlanc that just 1-for-1s you a lot is eventually just going to run out of cards and run out of things to do. So one way to fix it would be to like take Trifarian Assessor, buff it up so it's drawing you more cards. You know, if it itself had 5 attack, I think that'd be like a pretty reasonable change. The other way is to more lean into the Ashe OTK, making that a more common thing that happens, you know, quicker, or you have more access to. And it looks like they're leaning more towards that. They don't want to make her like too OP, but you know, making Troll Chant activate her is like pretty solid. I think it's an okay change. I think it's solid. I don't know if Ashe will be broken, but it's cool. It's cool. Darius. Okay, Galio. His level 2 is going from a 0.9 to a 0.10. So this is just giving him +2 on his level up, because he doesn't get attack, right? I think it's totally fine. That's fair. I don't think that Galio like super needed this, but it's fine. Streamer, go back to Darius? What do you mean go back to... Chat, this wasn't... Okay, I'm sorry. Darius's level up condition. From I see the enemy Nexus has 10 or less health to I see the enemy Nexus has half of its starting health. Oh my god. It's so good. Chat, my Path of Champions Darius speedrun is suddenly becoming that much better. You have no idea, bro. This is going to let me OTK my opponent so much earlier. I don't know. It's this doesn't matter. It's not a change. It's not a change. Darius isn't selectable in path. Yeah, but you can get him off of a secondary, right? Yeah. All right. Garen. Garen is now getting the text. Wait, level 1 Garen doesn't get it? But level 1 Garen does get it. It's because they misprinted it earlier. So anyway, level 1 and level 2 Garen now say, when I'm summoned, give other allies +1/+1 this round. Which is cool. And he's basically like a 5-mana Genevieve right now, right? Like, Genevieve kind of already does this, but has Challenger and has Scout. He's fine. I think that him as like a 1 or 2 of in Scouts makes sense. Why it's not his level 1? It is on his level 1. They removed all the text because they mistyped it the first time and said he was rallying on level 1, which he's definitely not. I think it's like a 1 or 2 of in Scouts makes a lot of sense. Because he's really good in the mirror. Having like a big 5/5 regen in like Demacia mirrors is like pretty solid. He's fine. He's not great. He's fine. He's better than he was before, right? Which is, you know, that was the idea then, yeah. Who? Genevieve? Are you talking about the Genevieve? Well, Garen replaced Quinn. The issue is that Quinn is so good with 4 Demacia. And flipping your MF. Like, I don't think you can remove Quinn. I think, again, like 1 or 2 of Garen max. Are people actually unhappy with this patch? There's definitely some changes that are pretty controversial. Elites might replace Scouts. Yeah, we'll see how Elites can do. You can totally remove Quinn. Quinn blows. Quinn's really, really, really good with 4 Demacia. Like, really good. Quinn's Jam spells better than Garen. I mean, I don't know. Having to play around Judgment, kind of OP. Okay, Karma. Create in hand a random spell from your regions. When you play a spell, cast again on the same target. So this is her level 2 keeps her level 1 text, where at the end of every turn, she's creating a random spell in hand. I don't think this matters that much. I think if you're hitting level 10 on Karma, you're winning the game anyway. I think that there's like a chance that this matters because there have been situations with like Karma Ezreal, or even like Karma Lee, where you really didn't want to play your draw cards until Karma hit level 10, because you wanted the extra value, you needed the extra value. And like maybe with this, you're getting a little bit more value. If you have to, you don't feel as bad for deep meting on like turn 8. It's like an okay change. I don't think it matters that much though. I think most of the time Karma is, if you're making it to turn 10 on Karma, you're winning the game anyway. So I mean, it's fine. More of a nerf than a buff. I mean, hand space could be an issue, but like in general, I think it's fine. It's fine. Matters for Karma Freljord. True, my Karma Udyr deck, bro. My Karma Udyr deck really gets buffed by this one. I'm excited because now Karma Udyr, I'm gonna come in and hit rank 1 with that. Is it Karma buff? It's strictly a buff, but I don't think it's that impactful. Katarina, level 2 text, play rally, create a 0-cost fleeting blaze edge in hand. This is good. Like, well, okay, so this is a buff to her, right? This is a solid buff that definitely helps her out. The issue with this change is that I feel like for the longest time, we all agreed that Katarina was a fundamentally broken champion that was never allowed to be good. And the main reason why was because if this card is ever good, the ability to continue to rally every single turn, multiple times per turn, is so incredibly fucking toxic that she just shouldn't be allowed to be playable. So when we do something like this, that doesn't fundamentally change her, it just gives her more power. It worries me. It worries me because this isn't like addressing Katarina's issues. This is kind of just like doubling down on them. It's like, fuck it. If Katarina's OP, she's OP, homie. I don't like that. I do not like that. I would much prefer that this card remain literally unplayable until they do a fundamental rework on her. And these type of buff is just, I don't know. It's a little bit sussy. Say it's a nerf actually player. Honest question. What, Karma? No idea. But yeah, no. I think the cat change is fine. I mean, it helps her. I think that it's like a good change if you want Katarina to be playable. I don't want Katarina to be playable. Yeah. Cat players waited 2 years for 0-cost Blade's Edge. I mean, this is a good this helps out Katarina a lot, right? As far as like making her playable, being able to have these cards is really good, because Katarina having to play 4 mana for her every single turn, multiple times per turn, really fucks with your hand, because you know you aren't playing out other cards that turn, right? So having something that is free that you can play down, it's nice for Katarina players. I just don't personally want Katarina playable. So yeah. LeBlanc, when I level up and each time I see you deal 15 damage, create a mirror image in hand. If you already have one, reduce its cost by 1 instead. It's a huge buff. This is like a huge buff, actually. I think that LeBlanc, when she's getting these mirror images, is already really scary in the game right now. So the change here where she's getting them more consistently is really strong and really scary. Realistically, it was probably necessary. Having to like kind of flip her twice and deal 30 damage to get your mirror image was probably a little bit over the top. Especially since she had 2 health. So like you're protecting a 2 health unit for how long? How many turns? But yeah, I think LeBlanc is really scary, especially because of how easy it is to you know, copy like Trifarian Assessor, or copy the guy who rallies in Noxus. There's like some toxic things that you can do with LeBlanc. I think that this makes her like really, really solid. I'm pretty scared of her. Seemed like not a lot, but she wasn't that bad. She definitely wasn't that bad before. I think if you people think that this isn't a lot, you haven't played enough against Ashe LeBlanc. Maybe you haven't played against it in a long time, which is understandable. This deck's kind of been unplayable for a long time. This is fucking scary. LeBlanc with mirror images is really scary. But we'll see. We'll see. Also copy Udyr now? Pog, you could copy Udyr? Let's go. Okay, but unironically, if you buff up like a really big Udyr with like 15 attack and overwhelm and you copy it, copy Scion. Copy Scion is unironically really fucking scary. Because if you copy Scion, then it's going to rally, right? You copy Scion, it rallies, it gives you another mirror image, you copy again. Oh, fuck. That's really fucking scary, actually. That's really fucking scary. I'm not a fan of that. Okay. Copy Rumble? Yeah, copy Rumble's reasonable too. Leona. Leona getting Overwhelm on level 2. Okay. People wanted this change for a long time, right? Like, people were like, oh, I really want Leona to get Overwhelm. We had it for like 12 hours and it was really good. I didn't play her during that time. I don't know if this makes her that good. Like, I don't know what. She's like a buff target now. You're pushing like a little bit more damage. I don't think this matters. I genuinely don't think this matters. I don't know. That said, I think that Daybreak was already really close to being playable. I think that people really underestimate how close to being really good this deck is. There's a lot of like really cool tempo plays that you can do with stuns that are really, really valuable. And I think it's at least... I think that this deck was not that far off from being really good. And like any sort of buff is welcome. Zenith Blade now draws on play though. It doesn't really matter though, right? Only if it gets denied. Tara Overwhelm? Maybe. We'll see, we'll see. I'm open to it. I don't know how important this changes though. Malphite though. Malphite now has Arachnoid Sentry text. On play, stun an enemy. For High Cost Champion, we wanted to give Malphite a little extra rock and roll when he's dropped on the field. Being able to immediately stun a target makes him a better pick with Yasuo. And lets him more consistently stall a match until he gets into motion. Okay, so here's the deal, guys. Here's the deal. I don't think Malphite was that bad either. I think Malphite was like solidly tier 2. It has a lot of really good matchups. It crushes a lot of mid-range decks. That like, just because the only person who's playing it is Roji doesn't mean that Malphite wasn't already solid. I don't know how big this change is. It makes like defensive Malphite better. There's also really cool things where like something that would happen is on your offensive turn with Malphite, your opponent wouldn't want to develop units out because you'll just end up stunning them, right? They want to save a unit until after the stun. So if you develop Malphite into your attack token, you already stunned one of your opponent's things, and you're more often checkmating them, as far as like, you know, either they have to develop a blocker right now to like not die to an open attack and force you to use the stun, or they just let you attack, you know, because you want to hold on to your units post stun. I think it's a cool change. It probably makes Malphite like significantly better. I still say that the Malphite change that needed to happen was Devout. As it is right now, this Devout landmark is 1 mana for no fucking reason. Literally no fucking reason. This card should be 3 mana, because if it's 3 mana, it affects nothing in the game except it helps out Malphite flip. So I think that this would have been the buff that I would have liked to see. But yeah. Why do I have infinite channel points? Because it's my channel. 7 mana Arachnoid Sentry. I mean, like, we can meme about 7 mana Arachnoid Sentry, but giving him an on-play effect is pretty solid. Malphite support cards are still trash. They really aren't, though. Because Malphite support cards are like the other landmark cards that are already shitting on people in Talia Ziggs and Monoshima. So, you've seen Chip, and Chip is fucking insane. Chip is, like, not an okay card. If you guys have never been beaten down by, like, you know, just a double Chip hand, like, you're missing out. Chip is fucking broken. But yeah, no, it'll be really... I think this is a pretty solid change. It's not the change that I was hoping for, but I think it's pretty solid. Alright. Nasus. Nasus level 1 has Fearsome. Nasus dropped this. We're giving it back for real, though. He's a little too scary on release, but he's fallen a little too far and could benefit from having it back. Okay. Yeah, I think that this is like a solid buff. I think that this helps Nasus out a lot. Especially since there's so many, you know, like either challenger units with Thresh, or there's a lot of vulnerability with like Merciless Hunter. That like oftentimes you can get Nasus through to hit face. I think this is a pretty solid buff. Issue though. Issue is that there's this little known deck, you know, recently buffed that you guys might have forgotten about. There's this little emo boy called Aphelios. And Aphelios is kind of only being held down by like 3 decks in the meta right now. Monoshima, the highest played deck in the game, Talia Ziggs, and FTR. These are kind of like its only bad matchups. And the fact that Monoshima is getting like a pretty significant nerf means that I think Aphelios is going to come back. So when we look at something like Nasus, I don't think Nasus can beat Aphelios. Like, he just can't, right? Like, Nasus was already losing really hard to Hush decks. Aphelios can run multiple Hush. Gravitum blocking their board is pretty significant. They can run Sunburst. They can run Comet. Like, there's a lot of things that you can do to deal with Nasus to make this matchup terrible. So, like, even though this is a good buff for Nasus, and I think that this can matter in the deck, I think it's really fucking hard to see, like, Nasus being, like, a tier 1 deck. Salatel, thanks for the follow. Much appreciated, bub. Good versus FTR if you play Ionia. Yeah, man, that's cringe as fuck. Darkness? Why? Will Darkness? What makes Darkness destroy it? Because Minimorph? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, no, I think this is a solid change. I don't know if it's going to be huge. Mini? They don't play Mini. Like, I don't know. We might start playing Mini more now that, like, there's the change to the way that, like, cast and play works. I could see Mini becoming, like, flavor of the month again. But I don't know if it's enough. Like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Nocturne. Change from when you play a unit, give enemies -1/-0, to when you summon a unit, give enemies -1/-0. Okay. Dope. Yeah, it's cool. I think this is a fun change. I think this is, like, a cool change. Is patch out? No, tomorrow. I think that this is a cool change that opens up, like, some cool deck ideas. You know, especially for, like, content creators. You know, a content creator can go out and make Nocturne Azir. Nocturne Azir, if you can flip Nocturne, is funny as fuck, because you are burst speed on your attack, lowering your entire opponent's board's attack. And you're giving, like, your Sand Soldiers Fearsome. I think it's, like, really funny. And, like, if it goes off, it's really solid, right? But yeah. Nocturne Hecarim? Nocturne Hecarim! Nocturne Irelia? That sounds terrible. But Nocturne Hecarim! Realistically, I don't think this is, like, a huge change. Like, Vile Feast helps us out a little bit. It's not like doing the most in the world, but I think it's a cool change. And I'm down for it. 1x Herring and Nightfall could be funny. Yeah, you definitely could run it. Just call them modified change. How does it work with the Rekindler? And if your Rekindler brings out Nocturne, then it does nothing, right? If your Rekindler brings out like second Nocturne and you already had one on the board, then probably lowers your opponent's attack by 2. But yeah, we'll see. I don't think this is like a huge buff, but I think it's cool. I think it's fine. Scion. I would say that I was one of the biggest complainers about Scion when Scion was good. My initial issue with Scion was that Scion was too good at coming down on turn 7 and ending the game. Not just like literally killing your opponent on turn 7, but more that your opponent was not allowed to play the game anymore. They're never allowed to attack back into you, because if they attack into you, they damage Scion, and then you rally on them and they take a shit ton of damage, right? Scion was just so good at coming down flipped, instantly just stopping your opponent from being able to play the game at all, and then of course doing a ton of damage afterwards. When Scion went down to like 1 attack, which is then 8 flipped, I think it's like an okay change. That feels more like a band-aid change though. I'm going to be honest with you. He hasn't been playable this entire time, but it feels like it was a band-aid change. I think that this is the type of change, we're putting him back to 9. We're kind of putting him in the middle. So he still has some power. He still has the ability to end the game as maybe playable. But I think this is still problematic. I think that Scion needs this number right here to be changed. The issue is not that he just like has X amount of attack and is doing too much damage. I think it's the fact that he ends the game on turn 7. He needs to not come down flipped. That's my personal opinion. I don't know if this will be like enough to break him, especially in the current meta with stuff like Aphelios around. I don't know if Scion's going to like instantly be a tier 1 deck. But this change is like a little bit scary. And again, I feel like we're just not really hitting the core of what makes this card like problematic. I think you could even put him back to 10 attack if you make this number like 40. But yeah, we'll see. I think it's fine if he ends the game when he comes down. If he flips, he just can't come down flipped on turn 7, in my opinion. This buff just makes Minimorph bring back to meta. The issue is that like Minimorph wasn't that great of an answer to Scion. Because the issue is if you're Minimorphing Scion, and if you're playing a deck that like can play Minimorph, a lot of times you're getting shit on by like the rest of the deck. Now, admittedly, there have been nerfs to the deck since then. Like 3-2 Draven, like definitely hurts. I think Draven got nerfed before Scion, so it wasn't like, the timeline on it doesn't necessarily work out. And like the existence of something like Wallop makes a pretty big difference, actually. I think that like Wallop's existence is actually really huge for giving some decks that didn't have Game into Scion better Game into Scion. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see on this. I think it's scary, but we'll see. Give Scion a free attack, not rally. It's more in line with the league champ. Maybe. I don't know. You had to Minimorph the Twin Blades to not get out attrition. I don't think you're oftentimes Minimorphing Twin Blades. Sometimes you were. But yeah. Draven paid for Scion's sins. Fucking true. It makes me so upset, actually, that Draven Ezreal took like 5 fucking shots, like over and over and over. They kept taking fucking haymakers for Scion's sins. Like, Draven Ezreal did nothing wrong, but they got nerfed like 3 patches in a row because of fucking Scion. Before they're like, well, maybe we should actually nerf this Scion card. Like, come on. It's so fucking annoying. Udyr. Udyr's level up is changing from dealing damage to the Nexus 7 times to you've played stance swap 3+ times this game. And the stats, he's getting 1 extra attack. Okay. Sure. That's fine. That's fine, right? I don't know. Okay, so like the 1 extra attack on Udyr doesn't matter, right? It like basically never matters. You are giving him overwhelm, but I don't think like this 1 attack matters. Flipping with stance swap. I don't know if he's flipping faster now. Is he? It just changes the way you build the deck. And maybe with the new support card giving you access to, like a super cheap stance swap on like a pretty solid card. Like this is probably a bigger buff to Udyr than like changing his level up condition. I don't know how important this is. Is huge? You think so? Yaxco's faced with AMA, hit me with a buddy. Hiara, since it matters for Udyr viability. Yeah, Hiara is pretty huge. For reputation, are we playing him in a reputation deck? Are you playing Udyr LeBlanc? Are we playing Udyr LeBlanc with the idea of doubling Udyr. That's funny. That's funny. I don't know how good that is, but it's funny. Gets +3/+3 on level up. Assumedly, yeah. He'd be like a 9/8, right? The new playcast changed. What Ezreal deck should you play? You just want to try him out? Not Kate Ez, if that's an option. Yeah, I think that the Ezreal Victor deck that I posted in the Discord and on Twitter is like, seems pretty solid. Other than that, I don't know. It's hard to say, like, until we get in there and try stuff out, like what the best Ezreal deck is going to be. But yeah, the Ezreal change is pretty good. Play business in Mirror Mageon? True. Yeah, maybe it's significant. Maybe it's better than I'm thinking. Yeah. I don't know. I'm open to it. I don't know. We'll see on Udyr. Because the other thing is, like, Udyr was never, like... Generating stance swaps is really good, right? Generating stance swaps is really good because stance swaps are really good cards. Udyr wasn't great because he's, like, you know, this understated 5-mana unit that doesn't do much other than, like, you know, maybe generate stance swaps sometimes. I don't know if this necessarily changes that. We'll see. We'll definitely see. I think it's hard to tell how good Udyr will be. But it's reasonable. Stance swaps are not worth 3 mana. I think they definitely are floppy, depending on what you're putting them on. Like the regen one on the challenger unit, kind of good. Overwhelm on these big units can be pretty solid. Like you can make really big things really fast. The issue is, like, you know, if like stuns are existing in the meta, freezes, you know, you're kind of really sad. We'll see. Vladimir. So Vladimir, is he getting fearsome on 1? Vlad was having a bloody hard time dealing with chump blockers, so his change should let him be a bigger threat and close out games faster. So he's just getting fearsome. Okay. Yeah, cool. Dope. I don't know if this... and this is, like, fine, I guess. I don't know. It's not great. The issue with Vladimir is that he's kind of stuck in a bad deck, right? Like, he's stuck in Scargrounds. And Scarground is so shit if you don't dress Scargrounds. So, like, balancing him around this deck feels really bad. I think that there's, like, with a lot of the new Udyr support, like the new 3/2 Overwhelm 2-mana guy, as well as Bone Scryer, the 3-mana 0/5 that when it takes damage pings the opponent's Nexus. I think there's probably, like, a pretty reasonable Freljord Noxus burn pile that, like, maybe new Vladimir fits into well. I could see that. I don't know. It's fine. I think it's fine. You don't think he's stuck in Scargrounds personally? No, he's fearsome. Yeah, maybe not. Vlad changes lazy, but it's basically telling us they're never reworking him. I don't know if that's true. Is there a world where you play Vlad in some kind of fearsome burn deck? Maybe Elise Spiders? In Elite Spiders, maybe. Maybe. I do think that there's, like, a Freljord Noxus burn deck that you could probably put him in. Make 1 or 2 cards that give HP. Make up for when you don't draw Scargrounds? Maybe. Yo, mid lane banter, thanks for the follow. Much appreciated, bud. You just run with Troll Chant, right? Like, Troll Chant is that. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. You're gonna chump your spiders anyway, so might as well kill them for burn damage. Oh god. Yeah, all your spiders have 1 health. Again, I think that if it's an aggro deck, I think it's Freljord Nox. I think it's Freljord Nox, just count to 20. But I don't know. Self-damage cards do anything interesting? They just use stats. I mean, like, the 3-mana guy is pretty solid. And the one that, like, pings enemy Nexus is pretty solid. But yeah, we'll see. Lifesteal elusive to Vlad. Oh my god. Yo, what's up, Jason? How's it going, buddy? Your change feels like the biggest rework of all? Maybe. Okay, so those are all the champions. Real quick, while we're on Udyr, let's just scroll down to here, Allseer. 6 mana 5/5. When I'm summoned, create a stance swap in hand. It costs 0 this round. 2, when I'm summoned, create a stance swap in hand. The first stance you play each round costs 0. This is, like, really good, actually. I think this card's really good. Because anytime that you can play stance swaps for 0 mana, like, that's a lot of value. I think that's really strong. I think that this is probably, like, a bigger buff than the Udyr change. I think that, like, this plus the new Freljord buff spell that generates a stance swap, if Udyr's playable, it's because of those buffs and not because of the Udyr buff. But yeah, I think that they're good changes. Rings for Barcelona. Do you think Ashe will be good? I think Ashe has potential to be good for sure. The buff is solid. Heal on site, you don't get the reduction. True. But I think it's still pretty big. Especially since you're playing in Freljord, right? Like, you're playing in Freljord, you have Troll Chant to protect it, you have 3 sisters. I don't think it's dying on site very often. But, yeah. Yo, GC Own, thanks for the follow. Much appreciated, bud. I think it's a solid change. I dig it. All right. Let's go on to the followers, spells, and landmarks. Does the same thing as Udyr, though? What do you mean? I mean, Udyr has to strike to get his, right? So it's very different. Undervalue the Udyr buff? We'll see. You know why they made Udyr change so specific instead of like target allies 5 times this game? I have no idea. I don't know. We'll see on Udyr. I don't have a good read on how good Udyr will be. Time is patch dropping. Usually it's 11 a.m. Central. So, you know, translate that into whatever time you have. Chat would show rank next to names in chat. That's toxic. Did cast instead of target because the new rules change? Okay. Ambush. Ambush has become a go-to tool for some decks to end games abruptly, without much opportunity for interaction from the opponent, where increasing costs to be in line with similar effects. I don't know if Ambush needed a nerf. I would be honest with you. I think that, like... Okay, I think that the Victor decks coming up, like these Victor Ballistic Bot Ambush decks coming up, have been really strong. And I think that they are really difficult to deal with. And some type of a change to them is probably a good thing. It's probably a good thing. But, like, bot's already getting nerfed. Ambush is already in a region that already has 2 mana give your guy elusive, unconditional. Yeah, I don't know. This feels weird. Plus, most decks have, like, a reasonable way to deal with this. Like, you know, if you're in Freljord, like, you freeze it. If you're in Shurima, you quicksand it. If you're in Bandle or Ionia, you stun it. If you're in Targon, you hush it. Like, I think like, a lot of other regions also can just, like, chump with Ambush. I don't know. I think that this wasn't that great. I don't think that, like, the Ambush cheese strategies were that great before. I think that a lot of people, like, climbed at the beginning of the patch with it because, you know, if people aren't aware of it and aren't, like, playing around it super hard, you could definitely cheese them out and just beat their ass. If you're Demacia, you lose. I mean, you mean play 2 mana Vengeance or 5 mana Vengeance or Sharpsight? Yeah, I think that this card wasn't that great. And a lot of times, if you lost to it, you probably just weren't playing around it very well, or you drew really poorly, which happens. I don't think it needed this nerf. I think it's kind of a weird nerf. But yeah, I don't know. Especially combined with, like, bot going down to a 0-3. Which is fine. I think the Ballistic Bot has been a good card for a long time. My issue with the bot nerf is that, like, before the Victor buff, this card wasn't playable for, like, 2 patches. Like, this card had not been playable. God, I mean, basically since Worlds until last patch. So the fact that it's, like, coming in and getting nerfed now, I don't know. Bot's, like, a really good card. The other issue is that, like, Victor decks don't care about this. Like, Victor decks really don't care about this because they're buffing this thing to infinity so fast anyway. Like, who cares? The decks that get hurt by this are, like, non-Victor decks that are playing Ballistic Bot. So stuff like TF Nami. TF Nami gets hit by this because suddenly Ballistic Bot doesn't trade into anything early, which is, like, a really fucking weird nerf, right? Like, if you feel like the Victor decks are the issue, why are we nerfing it in a way that, like, only hurts non-Victor decks? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not crazy about it. These changes, at least they didn't, like, 0-2 bot or something, or 1-2 bot. Like, if they lowered bot's health at all, this card would basically be unplayable. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not crazy about that nerf. Blood for blood. Fast speed to burst speed. In addition, Vlad's changes making blood for blood burst speed now allows for some cool outplays and self-damaging decks. Okay, dope. Yeah. I mean, so Noxus basically gets a worse iterative improvement, which is fine. I think it's totally fine. Yeah, like I think it's totally fine. It's okay. It does its thing. I think that like a cool change would have been that you could target opponent's units with it. That way you kind of like decide on if you want to kill an opponent's unit or you know, just copy it and deal 1 damage. I think that'd be like a really cool way to make this like uh a really powerful card. Now it would be burst speed dealing damage, which is maybe a bit of an issue. But I don't know. I think this is like an okay change. You know, they already had worse sharp sight. You know, now they can have worse iterative improvement. I don't know. It's okay. It's okay. Blood for blood will always be bad as long as Conk is 0-2-1. Damn, that's the true nerf. They future-proofed Concologists. They knew they were going to buff blood for blood, and they just made sure you can't block it. Or you can't ping it. You can't iterative it. Yeah. I don't know. It'll be okay. Buried Sundisk. When an Ascended ally levels up, advance me 10 rounds. So when an Ascended ally levels up, advance me 9 rounds. Okay. Yeah, this is cool. So, like, the big thing here is that it just slows down Sundisk by, like, 2 turns. Which I think is pretty cool. Because, like, the big issue with this deck is that it was flipping on turn 6 or turn 7 and just, like, ending the game. Having them slow down, like, 2 rounds means that, like, really bad aggro decks, or, like, aggro decks that should be really bad matchups for you actually become bad matchups for you. And if you want to flip on turn 6, you have to run bad cards in your deck, like Time in a Bottle, or like Clockwork Curator, or the Hierophant, Esteemed Hierophant, the 3-mana 3/4 that takes down your Sundisk. I think that this is a pretty reasonable change. I don't think that this is going to kill Monoshirima. I think Monoshirima is probably going to like still be fine. But like giving them actually bad matchups, I think is a really good change. And I'm down for that. Preservationist. The Giraffe. You could play Giraffe. I don't think Giraffe is good in this deck, but you could play Giraffe. Floppy and Mudkip. This is very cute, chat. 2 rounds to kill a Zereth. I mean, not really, because they're never dropping unflipped champions, right? They just don't drop their champions, right? Like they're still holding on to them. It's not like Azir and Zereth are gonna like sit there with their thumbs up their asses for a couple turns. Like they're just not gonna play until like turn 8, which is fine. Callous Bone Crusher. Going from Reputation I cost 2 to Reputation I cost 3, and when I'm summoned, grant me Overwhelm. Which, yeah, and this thing getting Overwhelm is pretty cool. You know, when you're proccing Reputation, this card becomes a lot better. And 4-1 with the Fellies 5 versus Shurima? Hell yeah. Way to go. That's awesome. I don't know. I think this is like a solid change. It's giving you like more of a payoff for Reputation, and like if you're playing out like 3-mana massive units with Overwhelm, like yeah, you're probably winning the game. I think it's a good change. I don't know if it's gonna be like insane. I don't think that like Callous Bone Crusher is necessarily gonna be just, you know, crushing out here. But like in combination with a lot of the other buffs to the Reputation archetype, you know, like LeBlanc, like the new Noxus card that summons the 2/5 ones, you know, you're probably more consistently hitting Reputation, and yeah, I think it's a pretty good change. I think it's pretty solid. She crushes you, Jesus. Chat. Here, Allseer, we already talked about that. I think this card's really good. Swiftwing Lancer, becoming an elite. Okay. Cool. Yo, Jacob XDDD, thanks so much for the follow. Much appreciated, bud. I think a big thing with this card is that this card was never like that bad. The issue is it's in the exact same slot as Screeching Dragon, which is a 5-mana 4/5 with Fury and Challenger, right? So like Screeching Dragon was just kind of better. So having a reason to run this card is cool. I'm down for it. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. He can copy himself now. My assumption would be, since like since Telescope can't hit itself now, there were some other changes that like you can't hit yourself now in like Manifest and stuff. I would assume that you can't hit yourself on this. We'll see, I guess. Make Screeching an elite. Based as fuck, honestly. Based as fuck. Bandletree. From 5 mana to 4 mana, and then now it's I've seen. Win the game if I've seen units from 10 regions summoned. Tree's dead. Tree is fucking dead. Which, thank the Lord. I'm down for it. Thank you so much, Riot. I fundamentally despise the play pattern of Bandletree, and I am glad that it's basically killed. Now it's just like a weird value card that like sometimes wins you the game. I think that if this card sees play, it's going to be as like a one of in Yordle and Arms to like help out in control matchups. You know, like this probably helps out a lot in like the Darkness matchup or something like that, right? I think that like there may have been like a better change to Tree where, you know, you try to make it playable. You know, maybe you fundamentally rework the card so it does different things. You know, maybe it like instead of winning the game, it like buffs all your units everywhere and gives them like plus damage and like impact, or something like that. Maybe there's a change to Tree that would make it more healthy. But barring that, I think this is about as good a change as you can get. I think it's totally fine. Kill Tree, but don't kill Sundisk. I mean, they're trying to make Sundisk work, you know? They're trying to make Sundisk work. They don't want to just murder every deck that comes out. Check Discord. What are you sending me? This is me at the Bandletree patch notes today. Stopped by one of my biggest haters' funeral today. Just make sure they were dead. Rip Bozo. Jesus. Jesus. But yeah. You murder every deck but Aphelios? Damn. So they needed time to work on deeper changes to Tree, and then they made it seen? I mean, yeah. I don't know. I think this is an okay change. Vanguard Squire. From a 4 mana to 3 mana. Okay. Dope. So like realistically, this card is making itself cheaper, right? So what it's doing is it's helping you cheat mana on like, you know, turn 4 or turn 5. You know, you can play down a really cheap unit and go wider for your board buffs. And this is honestly like a pretty solid change. Because it helps you go wider quicker for stuff like Garen, or Cithria, or Bannerman. I think it's alright. I think it's an alright change. Yeah, I think that this is probably like one of the bigger elite changes. This is the one that's like more likely to matter. AMA scammed? Yo, Phoenix? AMA, did you type it? Sorry, I missed it. Where's it at? AMA scammed. AMA scammed. Where'd you type it, Phoenix? You have to actually type a question for me to answer. You have to actually type me a question. You're so honest. Does Bandle City count opponents' regions cards? No. No. If you've summoned, I've seen you. There's no fucking way. There's no way. There's 0% chance. There's 0% chance that they made it start counting your opponent's fucking... There's no fucking way. I know that that's what the text says right here. I'm telling you that there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way that that's how it works. There's no way. There's actually no way. Actually, I refuse to believe for even a second that that's how that works. Why would you ruin my day like this? Why would you ruin my day like this? Oh my god. Surely not. Surely not. I'm just gonna ignore that you said that. I'm genuinely just gonna ignore it. No way. Yordle in Arms, though, guys. Yordle in Arms. 5 mana, slow speed. From +4/+4 when activated to +3/+3. Chat, there's actually no fucking way. Come on. There's no way. Should have scanned the AMA. I should have scanned the AMA. It's a pretty big... this is a pretty good nerf. Realistically, Yordle in Arms probably isn't dead. It is different. No, but like on the card, it says win the game if you summoned units from 10 regions. This is the old, they haven't changed the text on the picture yet. So like, yes, this text is different right here. I'm saying that that's not what they mean. There's no way that's what they mean. LOR on Fire or Paradise? I think it's all right. I think it's pretty solid. So Yordle in Arms, I think that +3/+3 means that this deck is probably still playable. I think that it's less good. I think that like what this really hurts is the hands where, you know, you kind of like cheese, play out like 3 different elusives, And then you just yordle in arms, and your opponent can only kill one of them, and suddenly you push like 13 damage for no reason, right? Like, this is just making that a little bit more manageable. Realistically, yordle arms is still probably playable. I don't think it's going to be like ultra tier 1. I don't think that it's like breaking the game anymore, but I think it's definitely still playable. Yordle's lost the right to bear arms. Sag. What am I building tomorrow? Victor Ezreal's Shellfolk, I think. There's probably gonna be a couple other things, but that's probably what I'm starting out with. No quick fizz, poor lethal, but still good. Oh yeah, that's what we're forgetting is that with the change to cast and play, fizz got buffed. You can just open attack with fizz pokey now. Only not be played if Lulu Ari's better. Maybe. It might just be bad. It's hard to say. 6. Yo, what's up, Casey Herman? New UI changes are annoying as fuck. They should let us turn it off. I think it's pretty solid. We'll talk about... So UI changes. There's a ton of changes to the UI, including like... I don't know. There's like a sword if you're on attack and like a shield if you're on defense. And they change like the word on the pass button. I think they're fine. I think that every single time in any game ever... the people make a change to UI, everyone hates it instantly because they're just not used to it. Realistically, I think it's like a fine change. I think it'll be okay. I think that, you know, in like a week, people will just, you know, be normal. Burst speed judgment? Yeah, but that doesn't do anything. Who gives a fuck about burst speed judgment? What does it do, Yoda? What does it do? What should you do with this patch? There is no dealing with it. I'm getting there, Kingsgrave. I'm getting there. Think about the new rules. We're scrolling. We're scrolling, chat. We're scrolling. All right. Game rule updates. We have some important rule changes, as well as new visual UX improvements. A few videos here outline changes. Please read below for full info. On Reddit, 2 cards, I think. Yeah, like Scales of the Dragon is like focus speed, and there's like an elusive that we don't care about. Yeah, they're okay changes. Burst pass. Context from game designer Mr. Ruben Zoo. Powerbomb, thanks for the follow. Previously, you could only end the round after your opponent has fully passed without taking action. See creator, thanks for the follow. Beginning this patch, if your opponent passes after playing only a burst or focus spell, you may now end the round. We're making this change to create consistency between how gameplay flows both inside and outside of combat, creating higher stake decisions, especially in the late game, and reducing empty and unnecessary pass and pass backs. Okay, let's talk about burst passing. I think creating consistency between how gameplay flows both inside and outside of combat, I think this is silly. Who actually cares about that? I don't think I care about that. I think that this change can make sense. I think that it can make sense. Because basically what you're saying is that when you play out like a unit or a fast speed or a slow speed spell, those cards explicitly make you pass priority to your opponent, right? Like you're forced to pass priority. The thing with burst speed spells is because they're burst speed, you aren't forced to pass priority. So anytime that you play a burst speed spell and then pass, basically what's happened is you've looked at the game state and you said, hey, I'm okay with this game state. I'm willing to give up my priority. Now it's your turn. You know, you can do something, right? Which if you're okaying the game state, I can understand making a change to be like, okay, well, if you okayed the game state, your opponent should be able to just end the turn. But I think there are a lot of instances in which you play a burst speed spell and then you want to pass to pressure your opponent's mana. And the fact that you lose access to that, kind of a bummer. I think that there's probably hand states where, like, if you only have burst speed spells, you don't really want to end the turn. You still want your opponent to, you know, like play into you or be forced to play into you, or you might end the turn. I think that there are hand states that get affected by this that makes the game a little bit less skillful. I know that a lot of people are like, hey, you know, just play a normal spell. Don't burst pass. You know, who needs the burst pass? You know, burst passes only beat bad players. I don't think that's true. I think that there are a lot of states where playing a burst speed spell and then passing puts a lot of pressure on your opponent to play out a card, or you'll just end the turn on them. And now that you no longer have the final say there, I think that I'm not crazy about the change. I get the justification for it and why you could justify it, but I personally am not a huge fan of the change. I'm willing to try it out, but I'm not a huge fan of it. It's already on live. If you guys haven't seen, both of these rule changes, the cast and play as well as the burst pass changes, are already on live, on PC at least. So like, I don't know, already like 5 or 6 times today, I've like burst passed or focus passed. I've like done like a prank and then a pass, and then my opponent just ends the round on me, and like I just straight up grief the game. I don't. Again, I am not a fan of this change. We'll see how big it is and how much it ends up changing, but like my initial thought is I'm just not a fan of this at all. Burst pass was a key element in some control matchups. So most control decks don't really have like burst pass options other than like specifically Catalyst. I think like Lee Sin is a deck that gets hit by this pretty significantly. I think that Targon especially, because like a lot of times you'll Guiding or Pale as Targon for like a pass. I think those decks, and I think Shellfolk. I think Shellfolk gets hit a lot by it. Because Shellfolk would play like Trinket Trade Pass or like Prank Pass. Or like Shurima Shellfolk especially would use the timer because you have very long turns as Shurima Shellfolk, right? So there were definitely instances in which you're playing a lot of cards, a ton of burst speed spells, and then you pass so that they have to pass back and you get a reset on your timer, right? Like that was a very common play. I'm not a huge fan of this. TF Nami gets hit by this one too because you can burst pass pick a card on 4. That is pretty big also. Like TF Nami would a lot of times pick a card and then you pass and your opponent has to like spend mana or like pass back. You're threatening TF. It's interesting. Surprised all the LPP unanimously except Nick like the burst pass change. I'm also surprised. I don't know. I don't like this change. We'll see how much it ends up mattering. Maybe it doesn't matter at all. Maybe like in 2 weeks we'll look back and we're like, oh, it's crazy you could burst pass. That was so stupid. But in general, I'm not a fan of it. But yeah. It is funny though that on the leaks, Infinite Patrons came out and said, if burst passing is removed, I will eat all my socks live on stream. So I mean, at some point, if you guys see Infinite Patrons, you gotta call them out on it. Let them know that we wanna know how the socks taste. Fucking Infinite Patrons, poor guy. I tried to warn him too. I was like, bro, I don't think you want to say that. Ban him from stream if he doesn't. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Like burst pass remove plays aggro and hates failure SI. That like burst pass remove. I don't think that's true. I mean, because like Majin liked it too, Vixter, right? So you have your options. We think either giving them all away so you don't have any might be a play. I think, okay, here's the deal, Infinite Patrons. As a member of the community, I will come to you in a negotiation, okay? Because I don't think that anybody wants you to eat all of your socks. I think that that's unreasonable, I think that it is embarrassing enough if you commit to eating, I would say 1 sock, okay? 1 sock, you can cook it up real nice, maybe season it a little bit. I think that would be a reasonable negotiation. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that negotiation? Look into sock recipes? Who was it? It was, who was the League content creator that ended up eating a sock? God, it was the Irelia player. G-Bay. Yeah, it was G-Bay. G-Bay ended up eating a sock. So, I mean, you won't die from it. Was a result of playing against Aikado Shellfolk? Yeah, that's a real thing, chat. The change to burst passing is actually only a nerf to me. They're out here trying to ruin Shellfolk. They know that Shellfolk is the best deck of the game. They know it's the best card in the game. And they're trying to nerf Shellfolk specifically by changing the rules. Why'd he eat a sock? Because he said he would. I don't remember what it was. It's an Allen nerf? It's also an Allen nerf. You won't die from it? Yeah, you probably won't die from it. Depends on how nasty your socks are. If I didn't beat Ruben with Shellfolk? True. If I had let Ruben win. It's because I passed on him. I passed on him too many times. But yeah, I'm open to it. But as of right now, I'm not crazy about the burst speed change. Let's go ahead and look at cast is merging with play. So this is a bit complex. So let's define play in LOR first. When a card leaves your hand into play or onto the stack, that's playing a card. Change. Cast cards now have been adjusted to activate when you play a card. So previously, cast cards or anything that responded to a cast didn't proc until the card that went on the stack resolves. Resolving a spell is what was considered casting it, whereas just putting it on the stack was playing it, right? So the big things that this affects are like Ezreal. Level 2 Ezreal, yesterday, if you put a spell on the stack, it didn't deal damage until the spell resolved. So you could remove Ezreal in response to it. Other cards that are hit by this, Lux. Lux is really huge. Jace, potentially good, potentially pretty big because you can no longer deny like a 6-mana spell to stop him from flipping. Other things, Heimerdinger is potentially pretty solid, like a pretty good change. Or Nami. Nami is also hit by this. Aphelios? I don't think Aphelios matters because Aphelios wasn't worrying about resolving cards anyway. Time's the patch go live tomorrow at like noon Eastern time is usually when it is. With this change, we're adjusting 61 cards in ways that range from small text only changes to larger impact timing changes. Vast majority of these are card buffs with some slight tweaks and a few nerfs. We plan to extra closely monitor both in positive cases for buffed cards and negative cases for nerfed cards and make future changes accordingly. Aphelios cares a bit for this for his weapons. I don't think he cares. Why does he care? Flips Aphelios as you play the force spell. Okay, how's that different? How's that different than what Aphelios is doing right now? Only huge for Ezreal and still Riot forgot to nerf Ezreal in this patch. Okay, so here's the thing. I think that the Ezreal change is pretty significant because there have been a lot of games where I played a ton of Ezreal. Ezreal's my highest mastery champion. I love Ezreal. There have been a lot of games where as Ezreal, I have like burn lethal in hand. If opponent can't answer my burn on the stack, like they kill my Ezreal, then suddenly I'm missing out on the damage. I'm losing the game. So you have to play like super hard around cards. And, you know, like sometimes you like slow roll burn for like 3 turns. Now you don't have to care, right? Now you don't have to care. You just throw all your shit out. And that's fine. It's a pretty significant buff. Also Lux. I think Lux is going to be the one that like people aren't really talking about right now, but Lux is going to be fucking broken. People don't know how important it is that Lux just like flips on the stack and gets the laser. Yeah. I think from a design perspective, I think that it makes sense to normalize all of these. You know, make everything the same. Everything resolves the same. That way, you know, it removes like complexity and like really weird, you know, really weird cases where it's not really testing player skill. It's just like stupid. Like, for instance, I think that the way that Nami and Shelly work right now is like probably the easiest way to describe this, right? So Nami, if you have Nami on board, she does not buff your units until the spell resolves, right? Whereas Shelly was buffing units as soon as your spell goes on the stack, so, which is really weird because they're a part of the same buff package, right? They're basically the same card. So the fact that both of them had different conditions was unnecessarily confusing and was kind of an issue. They both say play, but they both proc differently, right? So normalizing everything, I think, is a good change. But if we're going to normalize everything, I would have preferred we went the other direction. I think that pushing it more so that everything has to resolve is a more balanced way to do it, right? I think that that is doing a better job of allowing your opponent to interact, right? And I think that would be like a good thing. What Riot has done here is they've decided that they are leaning more towards cards and interactions that feel good to play, like flipping Lux on the stack instead of, you know, her dying, or flipping Jace They're aiming for feels good over feels good to play against, which is fine. I think that that's like a reasonable approach. I'm not upset with Riot for that. I think that in the long term, this is a good change. This is something that is probably going to, really make the game easier to understand for, a lot of new players. I don't think that it necessarily takes out like that much complexity in the game. I think this is going to be a good change. The issue is, in the short term, this is a huge balance nightmare. Like a huge balance nightmare. Like, Ezreal is really going to be super strong right now. Lux is going to be super strong right now. Taric has had some really weird interactions where, like, he's doing really crazy things, but also, like, he doesn't proc faded anymore, right? There's a lot of really weird things that we need to, like, iron out the kinks. And once we iron them out, I think this is a positive change for the game. But dear God, for the next, like, couple weeks, this is really scary. And I don't know. I don't know how we'll feel about it. It's gonna be really depressing when like Ezreal gets nerfed, a card that's been like fine forever, when it gets like really nerfed because of this change. Yeah. You said good luck, have fun, nerds. I don't think that's true at all, because if you have seen their statements on Twitter, it seems like they're very closely monitoring the situation, and if things turn out to be like too OP or too problematic, they're willing to make changes. This isn't like, get fucked, you're gonna have to, deal with Ezreal for 6 months. They are willing to change it. But, in the meantime, there's definitely going to be some issues. There's definitely going to be some champions that are just a little bit too strong. So we'll see. We'll see. Increase Taric's level up requirement massively. Yeah, because it doesn't copy. It doesn't like progress Taric's level up anymore. But like Taric does kind of cool things. Like you can play around deny with your rally now. What you can do is, if you think that your opponent has deny and is going to deny your rally, you can rally first while you still have the attack token. And even if they deny it, Taric will still copy it on your attack. So your rally is basically undeniable, which is like kind of a cool thing. There are cool interactions that come out of this. There's also broken interactions, It'll be really interesting. This is kind of like relearning the game to a certain point. There are a ton of new interactions. There's a ton of cool new things that we have to figure out. Palm isn't real? Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Should probably be 5 instead of 7? Maybe. Thoughts on emote meta with the new edition? How will it shape up? How does the emote meta? I think Ezreal emote, the Monka Ez, where he's sweating, I think that has to go up in stock, right? Because if they try to shoot your Ezreal, they try to shoot with like a get excited, and then you flip him on the stack. I feel like that's definitely an improvement. It's rubbing salt in the wound. That feels like a pretty good buff. Feel like they're taking interaction on the game. Should have unified the other way around. That's what I was saying. That's the take that I just had, right? Like, I think unification is a good thing. I would prefer it goes the other direction, but again, Riot has decided to lean more towards feels good to play versus feels good to play against, and I can't really fault them for that. Like, you have to pick one direction, right? I think that's fine. Somebody Riot hates blue in MTG. I don't know about that. Shows be ultra problematic as Kennen levels. Cards will be nerfed early next week, potentially. It's hard to say, but potentially. Spells resolving after level up deal Nexus damage? No, because the ones that are already on the stack will have already like either flipped Ezreal or dealt their damage. So you aren't getting more damage out of Ezreal. The amount of damage you're getting out of Ezreal does not matter. Like, it's not changing. What's happening is that you're more consistently getting damage out of him, which is different. Change you're most excited about? Comment them below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. True. Chat, say hi to YouTube. Hi, YouTube. I assume we're going to put this on YouTube, probably. Anyway. We're making these changes to unify the timings of our spell listeners to increase consistency and understandability, increase gameplay satisfaction. Again, they're going for feels good to play versus feels good to play against. Hi, Vimeo. Okay. Increase the overall utility of slow spells, which is definitely good, and cleans up the space for new mechanics. I think it's a solid change. I think that this is a healthy change. It's just in the short term, it's definitely a balanced nightmare. Anyway, let's go and keep going. Visual UX updates. There's just like a couple changes here. We can watch the video real quick. Let's turn that down a little bit. So yeah, there's a little sword now that lets you know when you have the attack token. Pog. It happened for the good game. Or at least not a month ago in the season. Massive season, instead of trashing the meta 2 weeks before seasonals. I think 2 weeks is plenty of time, honestly. I think 2 weeks is plenty of time to figure out what's going on. I think 2 weeks is like the perfect amount of time, honestly. Yeah, man, it's a hot take. Like, if it was shorter than that, like, it would definitely be an issue. But I think 2 weeks is fine. True, the Ezreal thing. Screen getting dark by attacking is the worst effect. It is pretty annoying. But I think this is the type of thing that we'll get used to over time. This whirling is really weird. They could have dealt 2 extra damage. Also, they could have pulled the keg. Shaking my head. They should have pulled the keg with Draven. Then the opponent couldn't block with the 2-2, right? Because these are both fearsome. Dude, I actually unplayable. Actually unplayable. I can't believe that in their in their video they're misplaying. Cringe as fuck. You know, I understand the ghost blocker change. Literally nothing changed, right? It's just it's just visually slightly different, right? Bam. Miss Lethal. Miss Lethal. Is it actually lethal? But yeah, so like the ghost blocker, I don't know. It looks exactly the same, honestly. Kurva. Yeah. But anyway, cool changes. Champion skins. That Vi skin's pretty cool. I dig it. Jinx skin. Okay, Jinx skin's actually really cool. I like this Jinx skin. Chat, it's Jinx from Arcane. For the unit dies, there's a blue line under them. Oh, okay. Cool. Too bad Jinx sucks. I don't think Jinx is that bad. Like, discard aggro is honestly coming back this patch. And then they're going into older skins and giving them, on their champion spells, new art, which I think is really cool. The Yasuo skin, Battle Academia Lux. I have that one, so happy about that. Darkstar Zed, Gilded Vi, Santa Braum, Pool Party Talia, Pog, Sentinel Irelia, Worldbreaker Trundle, Pool Party Draven, Ruin Draven. I think it's awesome that they're going back in and adding these effects. These are probably things that should have been when the skin's like first released. But yeah, I think that this is great. This gives them a lot more value, right? I'm excited for it. Vi emote. I have this thing. I have a rule with emotes where I will not buy an emote until I've seen somebody use it against me. Because once you see it in game, it's hard to tell how good an emote is until you see it in game. The one that I point to is the Zillion emote. You know, where he's doing the the go back into the portal thing. That emote in the reveal didn't look that great until you see it in game. And it's like, oh my god, this is S tier. It's free, yeah, but how am I gonna throw it into my lineup? And fan patrons trying to avoid talking about eating their socks. No, he said that he's talking with his lawyer about it. Literally, how you play the game. It's definitely difficult from the anniversary. Yeah, card backs. Cute chip emote. I dig it. Cute chip icon. This isn't an emote. This is card back. Very beautiful. Read Skathus's messages. Denies that he owns any socks and therefore... No, come on, Infinite Patrons. Wait. Infinite Patrons, if you're here, this does not fly. My client, Infinite Patron, denies that he owns any socks and therefore the conditions of the bet are fulfilled. No. I refuse. I tried to be kind to you. I came to you with the negotiations. I told you I didn't need you to eat every single sock. No, I would not do that. I'm not vindictive. I came to you and said, you just have to eat one sock. That's it. Just one sock. And then you're out here trying to scam? Scam? I'm telling you, if you scam this, you're going to get banned in my chat. It's as simple as that. Until you put out a video of you eating a sock, you will not be allowed in my chat. Starting tomorrow, okay? Enjoy your last day, because here's the deal. You're not allowed to scam and just get away with it. Not here. Not in my chat. Not in my Discord. You have 24 hours. Who? Infinite Patrons. Infinite Patrons bet that if they remove burst passing, that he'd eat a sock. Or he'd eat all of his socks. See 2 changes that weren't in the patch? Yeah. Changed the scales of the dragon. It's focus speed instead of slow. Pretty significant buff. The other one, I don't think it matters. Let you know about the video if you can't chat. Twitter. My Twitter's open. About to have my Joker arc. Cute icon. I dig it. Also a cool icon. Bug fixes. Tooltips would sometimes not show. Okay. Oracle's Eye will now interact correctly with the level 2 rumble. Okay. Visuals with Resource Sundust would remain. Okay. Landmarks offered after playing Stoneweaving had incorrect costs. Okay. Light Caretaker not correctly. Okay. Okay. Oh, Spell Shield not now correctly blocking Despair is actually pretty good. That's a pretty big Vagar or what's the guy's name? Viego. That's a pretty big Diego buff. Because like as it was, if you use Despair on a spell shielded unit, it would still hit your Nexus, which is, you know, pretty. Which is, it sucks, you know. So the fact that it now actually stops it is probably good. Seen the Blue God Rumble bug clip? I have not. All right. Well, that is the patch, guys. That is the patch. Just quick speed run of running this back down. Start back at the top. There were a lot of changes. This card might be good. Hard to say. This card probably not good. I don't know. This card's really good. Ash, that's cool. Galio, probably, I don't know. It's fine. Garen, he'll probably be played, you know, a little bit, but it's not insane. Karma, I don't think it matters that much. Katarina, sussy. LeBlanc is really strong. Leona probably doesn't matter. Malphite, this is pretty good. Nasus is pretty good, but the meta's probably going to be really bad for him. Nocturne probably doesn't matter. Scion, scary. Udyr, we'll see. Vladimir could be cool. Ambush, I don't like this change. Ballistic Bot, I'm not crazy about the change. Blood for Blood is cool. This is a good change. This is a good change. This is really strong. This doesn't matter. Banner Tree is dead. This is probably a good change. The Ordered Arms will still be playable, but like less good. And yeah. Anyway, that's the patch rundown. So, and cut.